This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Out of pocket. This type 1 diabetic says getting coverage under Nova Scotia programs is a struggle.
Sea slug. Why scientists are excited about this rare photosynthesizing creature found off our coast.
And bloody good drag. We pay a visit to a one-of-a-kind blood drive in Halifax.
Oh, we've got skies clearing and then some showers and flurries back on tap for Friday as temperatures drop into the weekend. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. A diabetic woman who recently moved to Nova Scotia says they had to spend hundreds of dollars out of pocket while waiting to get approval for the provincial programs that help cover the cost of insulin and supplies.
Beck Marie moved from British Columbia, where they had been covered previously for devices such as an insulin pump and glucose monitoring sensor. The CBC's Josh Hoffman reports.
Beck Marie has lived in 2 other provinces with type 1 diabetes, but says it was more difficult to get coverage for vital treatment in Nova Scotia than anywhere else.
It took 3 or 4 months, and in those 3 or 4 months, I was paying about $800 a month for my insulin. By the time I paid for my insulin, my test strips, my glucose sensors, my insulin pump, all out of pocket, that's about $700 or $800 a month.
Nova Scotia offers 2 programs to cover insulin and the devices people use to manage their diabetes. But to complete the applications, you need the signature of a Nova Scotia-based specialist. Marie says accessing a specialist was the problem since they didn't have a primary care provider, and the wait time to see an endocrinologist who specializes in diabetes treatment was 18 months. So instead of waiting, they went to pharmacies, emergency rooms, and clinics until they found someone who could help.
It was just a lot of me calling around, walking into places, driving to the pharmacy after work, seeing who's available, waiting for an appointment, getting sent back and forth, making a lot of phone calls.
Experts say these devices significantly improve the quality of life for people with diabetes.
It used to be that this new tech was kind of like, oh, nice to have, but now it's really set to be the standard of care for people with diabetes. What we know when people have access to the devices, so these glucose monitors and insulin pumps and the medication that they need, they have better outcomes related to diabetes. They're less likely to end up in hospital. They have longer life expectancy. They have fewer complications.
Marie said one of the main reasons they decided to move to Nova Scotia was because the province had programs to help cover treatment costs. But after having coverage in BC and Ontario, they thought it would be just as easy here.
I use up so much energy just taking care of myself, and then on top of that, all of these barriers to getting on the program for devices that I need to live, it was just exhausting.
The province declined an interview request, but a spokesperson said in a statement that the diabetes treatment programs were designed to help Nova Scotians who don't have a primary care provider get access to the help that they need. The statement says there are diabetes centers located across the province, and anyone having trouble accessing support should reach out to the Diabetes Care Program of Nova Scotia. But Marie says it was difficult getting anyone from that program on the phone, and when they went to one of these centers, staff told them they were either unable to help or unwilling because Marie didn't have a referral. Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Halifax.
Halifax Regional Police have identified the victim of a homicide on Wednesday as 59-year-old Troy Clayton. Police responded to a report of an injured man on Gottingen Street just after 11 a.m. near a bus stop. The man was taken to hospital where he later died. Police do not believe the incident was random.
Nova Scotia's education minister says he's disgusted by online predators who target students, and his department is working to block them. Brendan Maguire was reacting to the CBC story of an Annapolis Valley woman whose 14-year-old daughter was targeted by predators through a school-issued laptop and ended up harming herself. Maguire says there are safeguards in place, but this case shows that more work is required. The mother told CBC News that when she discovered the problem in October, she took her daughter out of school and took her computer to the RCMP, who are now investigating.
The day after CBC reported exclusively on the findings of an environmental racism panel, the Houston government is being accused of misleading the public on the panel's report. The panel made 14 recommendations in a 30-page report, which was delivered to the government more than a year and a half ago, but not made public. The report called for an apology to Mi'kmaq and African Nova Scotian communities who've suffered generations of toxic pollution. Opposition leader Claudia Chender says the handling of the report is embarrassing.
All we have seen since then is hiding, is double talk. They didn't read it. They didn't get it. They might have read it. They won't read it. They can't read it. They shouldn't read it. They might let it out. They won't let it out. Now it gets leaked. Apparently we have paper copies floating around this room, but we haven't had any press release. Nova Scotians, impacted communities, the descendants of Africville, the residents of Shelburne, they haven't seen it.
Chender says people in the impacted communities should also be receiving the report.
The Provincial Housing Department has selected sites in 4 communities for new public housing. Housing in Middleton, Windsor, Shubenacadie, and Spring Hill will create up to 64 new affordable homes. The housing will be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. Design work for the housing is underway, and construction is expected to start in the spring. Under the rent geared to income model for public housing, tenants will not pay more than 30% of their gross income on rent. And joining us now, Ryan Snoddon from our CBC Weather Centre.
And this morning started off very mild.
Yeah, that's right. Temperatures, though, have been tumbling throughout the day and will continue to be tumbling into this evening and the overnight as well. Recovering a little bit on Friday. We're in the 5 to 6 range for Friday. A chance for some isolated showers in the morning and a greater risk for scattered widespread showers into the afternoon. And as we turn the page into the supper hour or late afternoon, in fact, through the Annapolis Valley and into the Cobequid Bay area, down towards places like Keji, we'll likely see those showers mixing to a few flurries, and then that flurry mix will continue to move over for the rest of the province. As we walk you through the timeline here, there are those scattered showers on tap for Friday. The temperatures drop, and yes, a few more shades of pink and white and blue in here, which are indeed those flurries that are going to be on the mix for Saturday morning. More flurry chances, but overall Saturday's kind of a quiet day. Fairly quiet for Sunday as well. Quiet will not be the case for next week. Lots to talk about with that 7-day forecast, Tom and Amy.
We'll want to hear more. Okay, thanks Ryan.
Thank you.
The former chief of the defunct Joggins Volunteer Fire Department is once again facing charges in connection to an alleged assault. RCMP say Christopher St. Peter was charged with multiple weapon and assault-related offenses on Tuesday. Initial charges relating to the October incident were withdrawn by the Crown on Monday, but reinstated the next day because of new information. This comes as the Municipality of Cumberland Council upheld a staff decision to revoke the Joggins Department registration Wednesday night.
The province is selling its remaining $14 million worth of alcohol from the United States. The NSLC pulled the alcohol from its shelves back in February as part of Nova Scotia's response to the trade war with the U.S., which will continue. Additional alcohol from the U.S. won't be ordered after the inventory is gone. The province says about $4 million in net profits from the alcohol sales will go to Feed Nova Scotia and other community food organizations. NSLC locations will start selling the U.S. inventory on Monday.
The discovery of a rare photosynthesizing sea slug is making waves in Nova Scotia and farther afield. Snorkelers found the elusive sea slug in Rainbow Haven Provincial Park in Dartmouth. The CBC's Frances Willick reports.
It was here at Rainbow Haven Provincial Park that Ellie of the North made the discovery. But at first, the avid snorkeler had no idea she'd found something special.
I swam by something that just looked like a rotten leaf.
It was only on her third pass that she realized it was alive.
I just started yelling, "There's a sea slug here! There's a sea slug!" And people were so excited.
What she found that day was Eastern Emerald Alicia. It looks like a regular black garden slug. That is, until it unfurls emerald green flaps on its back that look just like a leaf. The sea slug steals the photosynthesizing organs of the algae it eats, keeps them alive in its body, and uses them to get energy from the sun.
It's like if I ate a whole bunch of spinach and then I just woke up this morning and I just sunbathed for an hour and then I wouldn't need to eat for the rest of the week. These slugs are essentially doing the same thing.
of the North and Stevens have returned on this chilly November day to see if they can find them again. Since sharing the find on social media, Stevens has been contacted by researchers from both the east and west coast of the U.S. The sea slugs are sought after by researchers. Scientists say unlocking its mysteries could advance research on cancer, inflammatory conditions, and neurodegenerative diseases. But the sea slugs have been so hard to find over the past 20 years that they've been difficult to study.
It's very exciting because for so long it just seemed like nobody had seen them, and that it was such a shot in the dark, it wasn't even worth going to look.
Now that a population has been found here, some researchers are exploring ways to obtain samples. Stevens notes that the sea slugs were found in a provincial park.
It shows how important these protected areas are to the biodiversity of Nova Scotia, as long as they remain protected.
Frances Willick, CBC News, Dartmouth.
Drag artists are here in Halifax at Canada Blood Services for a pretty unique event called Bloody Good Drag. And I'm here with the event organizer, Sin Diesel, and I'm also here with Jessica Carswell with Blood Services. So, Sin, this was your idea. How did you come up with it?
Well, I was getting really tired of seeing negative images of drag artists and trans people and people in the queer community being spread all over social media, and especially with what's going down south. And I thought, well, what can I do? I feel like there's nothing I can do. And then I was at work and I was like, wait, actually, there is something I can do, and we can start maybe hopefully a grassroots movement, and just to have the community be seen, and yeah.
And you work here. What is it your job here?
I poke people. Yeah, so I'm one of the DCAs. I'm a certified phlebotomist, and so I'm the one that was going to make you scared, but I'm also going to give you the best needle you've ever had.
Jessica, there were some big changes made in 2022. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, back in 2022, we changed our screening questionnaire. So now we ask everybody the same questions, regardless of the gender that you're registered in. And then in 2024, we issued an apology to the US LGBTQIA+ community for some of our past policies.
And have you noticed a difference in the number of people from that community coming in?
What we've done over the last 2 years is we started going out to more pride festivals and just engaging with the community, letting them know that these changes have happened. And what we've seen is a real uptick in people recognizing us and knowing that we've made these changes, which we think is a great success.
So how does it feel for you to be a part of this, aside from the fact you organized it, but just to have you and other members of the community here?
Well, for me, I'm just flabbergasted how much support I got from Canada Blood Services, and they have championed this, and I don't think it would have been that much of a success if I didn't have their support behind me, and it's actually quite moving to have that. Sorry.
That's great. So do you think maybe this will have a ripple effect in other places?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that other communities see this and say, you know what, it could be something as simple as this, and let's start being seen, and let's start showing and spreading our queer joy.
Do you see it here as maybe an annual event?
I would really love that. I really would, yeah.
And what was the reaction when you first gave a shout out to say, come on and do this?
Well, of course, we had all those questions saying, I don't think I can donate because of the history. A lot of them didn't know. So I'm really glad that this did happen because it's really opened up some conversations. And so now that people are seeing that this is for them as well as everyone else, I think we will have a bigger turnout if we get to do this again in the future.
All right. Well, congratulations and thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Christina Black. Power staying with it. Called off now. To run her out of stones. And to play. To go to the Olympics.
That was the moment Nova Scotia's Christina Black booked a ticket to the finals of the Olympic curling trials. Her rink beat Carrie Anerson and her team this afternoon at the Scotiabank Centre in Halifax.
And Black will now take on the #1 team in the world, Rachel Homan's rink, in a best-of-3 final, with the winner representing Canada at the upcoming Olympic Winter Games in Italy. Look at Melbourne Square today in the Annapolis Valley. Ryan is up next with his full weather forecast. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
All right, let's get into that weather forecast because there is lots to talk about. Let's start with the slide in temperatures we're going to be having.
Certainly going to be chilly, but a few quiet days, right?
Yeah, a couple quiet days into the weekend, which is great. Always nice to have some quiet weather on the weekend. Next week, as IT's not looking so quiet, so we'll dive into that. Already some buzz about mid next week, and we will dive into that. Have a look first at our highs today, and note the temperatures this afternoon into the double digits, even some teens. And here's where we are right now. We've already started to slide. Shuttacamp from 14 earlier down to 7 now, and temperatures into the 3-4 range in through western parts and 2 in Amherst. That's our coolest spot. The winds from the west to southwest ushering in that cooler air mass, and you can see some gusts at last check upwards of 30 kilometers per hour, but that persistent wind will continue tonight. Weather systems map, and this is there's the low. It's actually a double-barreled low, so we've got 2 centers of low pressure here, and this is all swirling under one big upper-level low, a big cold pocket of air aloft. And you can see here, look at this. This is onshore, snow squalls are rolling in from the Great Lakes. All that cold air hitting that open water, those warm, relatively warm waters of the Great Lakes, and so we've got widespread snow squalls. And so, yes, we've got orange alerts, winter storm warnings for northwestern Ontario, and orange alert snow squall warnings with 30 to 50 centimeters of snow for parts of southern Ontario, and yellow alerts for the snow squall warnings and the snow squall watches, where we'll see less accumulation, and snowfall warnings through northern parts of Quebec. So if you're wondering about the yellow and orange alerts and you missed the program last night, this is Environment Canada's new color-tiered warning system, and we'll be walking you through this in the coming weeks as we get our own warnings. And again, all color-tiered, yellow, then orange, then red, and hopefully we won't be talking about red. Of course, those are the very rare exceptions. Now, as we look at the forecast for tonight, southwest winds 20 to 30, gusting 40 to even 50 kilometers per hour for Cape Breton for tonight. And note as we move through that hour by hour, we're looking at just an isolated chance for a shower or flurry, wet flurry overnight and into tomorrow morning. It looks relatively quiet, some sun, some cloud. And then into the afternoon, in fact, beginning late morning, it looks like we'll see that more widespread scattered shower activity developing, and then into the late afternoon, we're going to see that really starting to transition over to a chance for flurries as those temperatures do drop. First in the northwest by 5-6 o'clock, and then that risk will take over throughout the rest of the province into the evening, and so we'll run the risk for some flurries even into Saturday morning. 6 and 7 degrees across Cape Breton tomorrow. Those westerly winds 20 gusting to 40. Similar story for the eastern mainland into central, 5, 6, 7 degrees. That chance for showers, as we said, more widespread into the afternoon, mixing to flurries here first into the late afternoon for the valley, and then everyone into the mix overnight. Saturday, a chance for flurries, and in fact, Friday night into Saturday morning could see some light accumulation here. The valley in through Cobequid Bay and around the Truro region, thanks to those westerly winds, which are going to be blowing in, the potential for maybe a squall line setting up for Friday night into Saturday morning. Also for Inverness and into Victoria counties, that'll continue throughout the day on Saturday. Generally, Saturday's a quiet day, but I think the clouds are going to be just a little bit on the stubborn side for Saturday. Sunday, not too bad to start the day. Some sunshine, increasing clouds. And this is the next system, which is going to be, yes, bringing snow to northern areas, but we're into the warm part of this system. With a track to our north, this looks like rain for Monday, some gusty southerly winds, and that will move through at a pretty good clip. Behind that system, the cold air spills in. Tuesday's going to be, looks like, our coolest day so far this season. Widespread temperatures below the freezing mark. And with that cold air in place and our next system rolling in, this is where things get a little interesting for next week. The track of this system is going to be so key. This is just one model. But if the track is to the south with that cold air in place, indeed, snow very much in play for Wednesday of next week. This is far from a slam dunk. Lots of different ideas. Could go south, could go north. But right now, yes, if you do have travel plans on Wednesday, best to circle back to the forecast over the next couple days. We'll be all over it, of course.
Yeah,
Tom
of
and Amy.
course.
We have been warned. Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ryan.
So, can you see Newfoundland from the northern tip of Cape Breton? That's a question being debated by people all over Atlantic Canada this week.
You know, it started when a hiker snapped a photo from the northern tip of Nova Scotia that he thinks captures a portion of Newfoundland in the distant horizon.
So, the CBC's Ian Hannamansing assembled some reporters to investigate these claims.
Well, it's a question that a lot of people in Atlantic Canada are asking, and this is because Wayne McKay took this picture. He was on the top of a Meat Cove mountain. If you look up close here, I just want to point out, this is not what we're talking about. This is actually St. Paul's Island, but it's this sort of hazy, I don't know how well you can see it, but there is something there in the horizon. You can see something.
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of people can see it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people, including the photographer, who are saying, hey, that is the southwestern end of Newfoundland. So you're talking about Cape Roy or Port aux Basques area of Newfoundland. If you live in Atlantic Canada, you might have some strong feelings about this. Is this the same as Sarah Palin saying that she could see Russia from her backyard in Alaska? Some say yes, that is the correlation here, that it's nonsense. Only possible that could be Newfoundland if the world were flat. But others are saying, no. I also went to a high point in Cape Breton, and I was able to see parts of Newfoundland. In fact, one even saying that he could make out little white dots that he believes were the houses in Cape Roy on Newfoundland. I don't know. That's some pretty good eyesight. So that's the back and forth.
Well, I love Sarah's reference to Sarah Palin. I also love the quizzical look on Darius's face as Sarah was talking about all of this. And so you are, among other things, our science specialist. So give us some special analysis of science to tell us, can we say definitively whether it's even possible?
We can, yes. And I want to thank our senior producer, Thorsten, for pitching this idea, because I got to do some grade 6 math, which I haven't done in a while. So that was fun. Let's take a look at the globe, and I'm going to zoom in to the area that we're talking about here, the northern parts of Nova Scotia, so Cape Breton Island, and then up here we have Cape Ray. And this is quite a distance to be able to see. If you want to look over the horizon and see Newfoundland from Cape Breton, you're going to be looking about 118 kilometers or so. So a long distance, not something that you could usually see. Normally, if you're down at sea level, the furthest you can see on the horizon is about 5 kilometers or so, if you're average height.
Curvature, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The darn curvature of the Earth. But that can change if you gain higher altitude. The higher you go up from the ground, the further you're going to be able to see. So if you just go 100 meters up from sea level, you can see 40 kilometers away from you. So very rapid rise there. Now, I'm going to show you the math for this very quickly. This looks a little bit complicated, so let's skip here. The higher up you are, the further you can see on the horizon. Now, is 277 kilometers the height of Meat Cove? Is that high enough for you to see across the horizon? 60 kilometers? Not quite. 60 kilometers is not 115 kilometers. But if we go factor in how high Cape Ray is, 400 meters is far enough.
Out of time.
Yes, it's possible.
Okay. Excellent.
All right, coming up, new data from the Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia shows that homelessness continues to rise in Halifax. Overnight on October 15th, teams of people counted both sheltered and unsheltered homeless people to get a snapshot of how many people are in need of housing in HRM. The count found 1,150 people are experiencing homelessness in HRM, up slightly from the year before. Michael Cabelan is with the Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia with us now. Thank you for that. The count up, but so is the use of facilities like shelters. So what are you gleaning from this data?
Well, good evening. And I think, it's a nuance that we're taking away this year. One of the important things to note is that while the number only seems slightly up, this year there was no survey connected with the point in time count. And so we were unable to capture people who were experiencing hidden homelessness. Think about people who may be couch surfing or, staying with a friend or other indoor options. And so, one of the things we're flagging is while the number is slightly up overall, there's some concerning pieces in other key areas that we really highlight this year in our report. All right, what worries you? What concerns you? Yeah, one of the things concerning, I think, is the continued use of shelters. So, we've seen a 23.5% increase in the number of people spending the night of, or at least on the night of October 15th into the 16th in a shelter environment. We've also seen a almost 60% or 61% increase of people living in an unsheltered environment. So outdoors in designated or undesignated encampments. We also found a significant number of more people staying in their vehicles, which was really different than last year. We were more intentional to go looking for that this year, but we were also still surprised to find so many. So is there any suggestion that the situation around homelessness is stabilizing, or are you seeing any improvements at all? Well, I think one of the areas of improvement was the number of people staying in what we call shelter diversion. Often looks like a hotel for families or other people who may not fit in one of the other shelters. That number has gone down significantly. Our analysis shows that that's directly tied to provincial investments in additional supportive housing environments. So, we know that those investments have had an impact. The other piece is there have been very meaningful and significant investments by the province, by other funders, hundreds and hundreds of supportive housing units to catch people who have been falling into homelessness. So, this isn't a no one's doing anything. It's just that the system still hasn't done enough to handle the amount of people that are coming into homelessness faster than we can provide solutions. And what do you want people to know about the hidden homelessness? So hidden homelessness is unique, I think, in that, we just can't capture it. Every 3 years, we do conduct a survey. We give people a nominal kind of reward or a gift to say thank you for participating in the survey, and we're able to capture more people. But really, hidden homelessness to many is just the homelessness we can't see. And so most people like to focus on encampments as the visible homelessness in our communities. But homelessness exists, and it's as unique as the individuals that are experiencing it. So, for us, what's really important to note is how do we move people out of this emergency response of shelters or unsheltered or other solutions that people are finding and into permanent and supportive housing solutions. And we've seen government make significant investments in these to date. The hope is we continue to grow that area. Not for everybody that's experiencing homelessness, we need to talk about what's an appropriate solution. For some people, an appropriate solution in the emergency is a shelter, but as time goes on, that shelter isn't the most appropriate place for them. We all want a home to live in. And everybody that we counted on the night of October 15th would say that. They want a home. And that's really, the call today is how do we kind of pivot the system that has gotten really good at emergency response and move into making more and more investments in the type of long-term solutions of housing, permanent, supportive, and affordable housing for people. Yeah, and so how do you deal with that bottleneck that's happening at the traditional housing sites and trying to get people moved into more permanently housed situations? Yeah, So we know the solution. Government is our partner. AHANS is one of many organizations that is at the heart of building more affordable housing, more market, near market, more deeply affordable, and more supportive housing. There's many, many organizations like us across this province that want to do the same. And so, the call is, will government continue to partner with us? We hope so. We know they've been great partners to date at all three levels of government. Supportive housing, though, looks as different as the people in it. Some supportive housing is just simply, people to ensure, people have what they need to stay housed. Other types of supportive housing will help people deal with the things that have ultimately contributed to and gotten worse while someone experiences homelessness. So think about people who are living with mental illness, living with disability, or living with some type of addiction. Permanent supportive housing can help ensure that the harm to that person from from living with some of those concerns while experiencing homelessness is reduced, and they can begin to kind of rebuild their life and kind of overcome the trauma of experiencing homelessness and all the other things in their life and stay stably housed long term.
Okay, and just quickly before I let you go, HRM has said it's going to shift away from the emergency support for those sleeping rough to moving people indoors because there are more indoor options available now. Do you agree with that approach?
Well, we don't necessarily connect shelter availability. Like we want availability in the shelter, just like you want space in the emergency room if you get sick. You want the shelter to be available for you if you can't access or you lose your housing. And so for a lot of people, though, the shelter isn't the most appropriate place for them. So I don't connect vacancy in the shelter with a plan to dedesignate encampments. I think we should really be focusing on people living outdoors and find them a more appropriate solutions. But a shelter isn't the most appropriate place for people who live with pets, people who have partners, people who live with addiction, people who choose to go out at night instead of during the day. Like shelters have a lot of rules. And for some people, that's just not the right environment for them. We should really be talking about what appropriate solutions are for people, whether they choose to live outdoors or whether they're living in a shelter now. And for most, and for everyone, that's housing, not a shelter, not a tent, or not something else.
Okay, we'll have to leave it on that note. Michael Kaplan of the Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Coming up, Alberta signs an agreement with the Carney government, paving the way for an oil pipeline through BC.
And the death toll continues to climb after a fire tore through a residential complex in Hong Kong yesterday. Welcome back. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith announced a sweeping new energy deal. It paves the way for a new pipeline to the West Coast.
Both sides say it positions Canada as an energy superpower while still working towards net zero emissions by 2050. Kate McKenna has the details from Ottawa.
It's so nice to see you.
A relationship reset and a sweeping energy deal between two jurisdictions often at odds, Alberta and Canada.
This is Canada working. This is cooperative federalism. This is Canada building with Alberta, building with Canada, building for today, but building very much for the future.
The Prime Minister and Alberta's Premier signed a new Memorandum of Understanding. Ottawa pledges support for a new oil pipeline to the Pacific.
At the core of the agreement, of course, is a priority to have a pipeline to Asia. That's going to make Canada stronger.
He is willing to work with me and Alberta's government to accomplish that shared goal. And that, my friends, is something that we have not seen from a Canadian Prime Minister in over a decade.
In exchange, Alberta will commit to raising its industrial carbon price, lowering methane emissions, and supporting carbon capture and storage.
The people of Alberta have had the rug pulled out from underneath them too many times to count over the past 10 years. I also know that a new relationship and a new beginning needs a starting point grounded in good faith.
Ottawa will also suspend or drop some Trudeau-era environmental regulations, like the emissions cap, clean electricity regulations, and if a pipeline goes ahead, Ottawa would adjust the tanker ban off of BC. But it's not clear if that will ever happen.
If there's not a private sector component, there won't be a pipeline.
The MOU says any pipeline would need to be built by a private company with Indigenous co-ownership, and First Nations in British Columbia will need to be consulted, though they don't have the option of outright rejecting a pipeline.
I think there are wins for everybody, but that can't happen if we're not all at the table together.
Well, you'll see it in the agreement. There's no mention of veto. I think that there obviously has to be trilateral discussions with British Columbia to find areas of common ground.
One person unhappy with this plan is former Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault. He is a lifelong environmental activist, and this afternoon he resigned from cabinet, citing the rolling back of environmental regulations. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Prime Minister's big announcement on Thursday means that construction of a pipeline extending to British Columbia's port could start as early as 2029. But for that to happen, private industry, as you heard, has to get involved. Anis Haderi explains.
The energy industry is reacting positively to this news in a general sense, but this isn't cause for major celebrations yet. This is a sector of the economy that has been calling for increased capacity, calling for increased investments, and calling for different regulation in this country for a long time. So seeing movement in those regards from both the Government of Canada and the Government of Alberta is welcomed by the energy industry.
If you asked any of us in this room 12 months ago whether the Prime Minister of Canada would be in Calgary to sign an MOU that will remove regulatory barriers to energy and related infrastructure development, kickstart the largest CCUS project on the planet, and expand our ability to sell to new markets, no one would have taken that bet.
But at this point, no company has put its hand up to say that it will be constructing a pipeline under that deal. And it is a requirement of this deal that a private company step up to do that. Take a listen to the Prime Minister earlier today.
What if there aren't any private sector proponents? You mentioned them there.
Well, if there's not a private sector proponent, there won't be a pipeline.
It's a short but blunt message from Mark Carney that the private sector has to be involved for a pipeline to be constructed.
If there are some guarantees or cost certainty associated with the pipeline project, I think you could see a private sponsor go forward, but that private sponsor is going to need some guarantees around the cost. I mean, I don't think any private sponsor is going to be prepared to just have a blank check associated with this project.
Whether the money flows is a different question. With lower energy prices than in the past, it may not be economical yet to make this deal. Anis Haderi, CBC News, Calgary.
Authorities in Hong Kong say the number of people killed after Wednesday's massive fire at an apartment complex has risen to at least 83. 300 others are still reported missing. Police have arrested 3 men who worked for a construction firm that recently renovated the complex. Laura Westbrook has the latest on the investigation into the cause.
This is very much an ongoing operation. Firefighters are using water jets, spraying them onto the buildings. Smoke is continuing to pour off some of these buildings, and there are still some small fires that have been ongoing as firefighters are working in some challenging conditions. They say that the temperatures have been very hot, and there is also the risk of scaffolding collapsing. Now, the attention is also turning to the material that was used when these buildings were being renovated. These buildings that make up this housing estate were being renovated at the time of the fire. That's why there is the bamboo scaffolding on the outside of the buildings, as well as some green mesh. And according to footage from eyewitnesses, when this fire started, it spread quickly across those buildings, across that bamboo scaffolding. Authorities now looking at whether some of the materials on the outside of the buildings might not have been up to fire standards. They were also looking at styrofoam that was being used in the renovations. That is very flammable, and that could be one of the reasons why this fire spread so quickly and intensely. Meanwhile, hundreds of people have been evacuated, many of them spending another night in emergency shelters. Volunteers have also rallied here today, passing out food, donating clothes as well to those affected in the area. Laura Westbrook, CBC News, Hong Kong.
An update now on the shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. U.S. officials say the suspect, an Afghan national, planned it as a targeted ambush. The CBC's Karen Pauls shares more on Wednesday's attack and what we know about him and the targets of his attack.
On a day of Thanksgiving, prayers.
Today, as most families join together to give thanks for the blessings that have been bestowed upon them, 2 families are shattered.
20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom and 24-year-old Andrew Wolf ambushed while patrolling near the White House, still in critical condition. Wolf's neighbor in shock.
Best neighbor you could ask for, really. It really caught us off guard. Really close to home.
The suspected shooter identified as 29-year-old Rahmanullah Lochinwal. CIA Director John Radcliffe said in a statement that Lochinwal worked with the CIA in Afghanistan. He was evacuated by the U.S. military after the fall of Kabul in 2021 under a Biden-era program called Operation Allies Welcome, and granted asylum under the Trump administration in April.
There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background.
As the investigation continues, the Trump administration signaling charges could be upgraded.
Everyone pray today for these 2 soldiers, these 2 guards, the man and woman. But if something happens, we will do everything in our power to seek the death penalty.
The U.S. is now reviewing all asylum cases approved under President Joe Biden and temporarily suspending all immigration requests of Afghan nationals.
We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country.
Afghans didn't commit a crime. One lone deranged gunman committed a crime.
Advocates say the shooting should not be used to punish Afghans in the U.S., and particularly those who were wartime allies.
They undergo more vetting than the U.S. military, than police officers, and certainly more than politicians.
All this amidst division over Donald Trump's use of the National Guard to combat crime in mostly Democratic cities. He's already ordered 500 more troops to D.C. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Pope Leo started the first foreign trip of his papacy on Thursday when he arrived in Turkey for a 4-day visit. While in the Muslim-majority country, he is expected to emphasize the importance of building bridges between people of different faiths. Megan Williams reports.
This is Pope Leo's first trip since he was elected Pope in May, and many observers have been watching to see just where his focus will land on these international trips. On the plane over to Turkey, he talked about the need for there to be more harmony with people from different backgrounds, and in his speech, he mentioned the same thing, saying that Turkey was positioned between the East and the West, and geographically, culturally in a position to promote bridges and harmony.
You have an important place
in both the present and future of the Mediterranean and of the whole world, above all, by valuing your internal diversity, even before linking Asia with Europe, East with West. This bridge connects Turkey to itself. It combines different parts of the country, making it from within, as it were, crossroads of sensibilities.
He also quoted Pope Francis a couple of times in his speech, talking about the need for a culture of encounter. Again, that speaks to going towards the other people who are different. But he also talked about the world having entered what Pope Francis called World War III fought piecemeal. He is very concerned, as was Pope Francis, about the various wars and conflicts around the world. He urged world leaders to do more to try and stop them. Before he spoke, President Erdogan spoke. He praised Pope Leo for his position on Gaza. The Vatican was one of the first states to recognize the Palestinian state and has been outspoken in trying to find a two-state solution. Megan Williams, CBC News, Vatican City.
Well, if you thought the Toronto Blue Jays had a good run, the Toronto Raptors just won their 9th game in a row.
12 seconds. Timeout, use it. Oh, they're going to let him play. They're going to let him go. Here's Ingram. Brandon Ingram. Yes, he did.
Not only did Brandon Ingram secure the Raptors their 9th straight win with just 0.6 seconds left on the clock, but it also clinched a top 2 seed and home court advantage in the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. Ingram finished with 26 points and 8 boards. Toronto looks to push their win streak to double digits when they travel to Charlotte on Saturday.
Impressive. Canada's main stock index finished narrowly in positive territory on Thursday as strength in technology and energy stocks offset losses in the consumer non-cyclicals sector. The U.S. markets were closed for the Thanksgiving holiday. Let's take a look at the numbers as we head to break.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
All right, we are not fixating on the possibility of snow next week.
No.
At all.
Nope. What a quiet weekend it's going to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Weekend.
Nobody said a word about next week to me today.
But they had lots to say.
Yeah, buzz about next week for sure. Aside, the weekend is looking quiet, which is great. First, let's start with our viewer picture of the day. And we're going to zoom in on Cape Breton and a beautiful spot here, St. Andrew's Channel. How about this?
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Wow.
Thank you to Joanne for sharing this. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. And yes, I believe that's a sunset picture.
Okay.
Now, as we look at the Friday forecast, 5-6 degrees. Isolated chance for showers in the morning, more widespread scattered shower chances into the afternoon, and those showers becoming mixed with a few flurries as the temperatures will start to drop, especially late day. There's the setup, that low moving off to the north and east. And yeah, by the time we get to Saturday morning, note in those westerly winds, you can see the model kind of picking up on this with the potential for some flurries blowing in from the Bay of Fundy, Cobequid Bay, across towards Truro, the Valley. Those are going to be the best chances of seeing some light accumulation for Friday night and into the early morning hours of Saturday, and also Inverness and the Victoria County area, especially the Highlands. That risk will continue there even into the afternoon. And then as we work our way into Sunday, high pressure, keeping things quiet. The best chance for sunshine will be Sunday morning. Clouds building in into the afternoon on the leading edge of that next system, which will be bringing some wintry mix to New Brunswick, but it looks like this is going to be just a rain event for Nova Scotia beginning on Monday morning early on. And then we're looking at temperatures of, 8 degrees. Tuesday, temperatures remaining at and below the freezing mark, and that cold air in place. You can see temperatures will be dropping off into below the freezing mark, and that could set the stage for, yes, as we like to say, an interesting setup.
Stay tuned,
Absolutely.
as they say. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan. A team of British scientists recently dug up a fin whale skull 5 years after it was buried in southwestern England. The 20-meter fin whale died in 2020 after it was stranded on a beach.
Researchers decided to bury the carcass as that's the most natural way of cleaning the bones. Excavators used special equipment, including an industrial vacuum machine, to get it out of its 2-meter hole.
The research team plans to display the whale head as a memorial in the local community.
Well preserved, for sure.
Sure is.
Yeah.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.